Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. Today I am back with my reading journal. Really excited to bring this video to you today. For January, February and March I did a really long Q1 video and you can check that out on my channel if you'd like to. But I mentioned in that video that I was really keen to do these videos as individual month videos, and I'm really pleased to say I did manage to do that for April. It's always kind of difficult. The reading journal spreads are quite time consuming. The raw footage for April alone was 2 or 3 hours, so this did take me a long time, but I think it turned out super cute. So I really hope you enjoy it. My reading journal is the Blush Pink Yop and Tom A5 journal. It gets pretty dirty on the outsides, but I like the pages generally. I wouldn't say it's the best quality planner ever, but it's a bit cheaper than some other ones, so it works fine for, you know, the purposes of what I'm doing. And then I use a mixture of Tombows and mild liners in this spread. And then I'll talk you through my first few pages. So I'm updating the stuff from my setup video, which is also up on this channel, so you can check that out if you would like to. The first thing I'm filling out here is my Heartstopper Leaves spread, which is marking my 100 books in 2023. As of filming this, which is the last day of April, which is maybe a bit presumptuous, but I don't think I'm going to get another book read today. I don't have any plans to read today. And if I do, I'll try and just continue one of the 2 books that I didn't finish in April. So I will, try and read one of those. So I am up to 40 books, which is great. I read 55 in total last year, so the fact that I've read 40 is great. And I will talk about the books that I read in April as part of this video. I'm now making these my wrap-up videos, so you can watch me doing my reading journal, but I'll talk about the books I read and stuff while I'm doing the spreads. I figure it's a good way of combining my book and planning content, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. But do let me know in the description if you would have preferred a separate video, like a chatty front-facing video with me wrapping up my books and the reading journal video separately. Let me know. I'm not really sure whether that would make any sense, but do let me know if you would prefer that. The Heartstopper Leaves printout is just something from Etsy that I made black and white, and I will have it linked in the description. With my printer, it does mean that my mild liners get a bit smudged, the black ink rubs into them, so it's not perfect, but it's okay. Then for this spread that you're watching me do now, this is my bookshelf spread. These bookshelf stickers are from Thumbelina print. I really like all the stuff they have in their shop, really good for bullet journals. And in this one, I colour code. So in the Heartstoppers, I colour code vaguely based on genre, but it's really not an exact science, and it is something I'd like to change up for next year. In this spread, I colour code based on how many stars I gave the book. And again, I would like to change this up for next year because I do give half stars in my ratings, but that's not reflected in this spread. So the majority of the colours here are blue and yellow because I mostly read 3 stars and 4 stars. And it would have been nice, I think, to see the 3 stars, like 3.5s, 4.5s, etc. But it's fine. It looks cute. And as I say, we're up to 40 books, which is really exciting. Now I'm filling in my series tracker, so all I do for this is have the name of the series on the left-hand side. I don't have the name of the author, again, something to learn for next year. And then I've just drawn a number of hearts based on how many books are in the series, and I just colour code when I've read the next book in the series. I also track my series tracking on a core pile spreadsheet from Book Roast, but I put it in here as well for the fun of it. And then in between that, you saw me go in and fill out my 2023 in 2023 spread. So I made a video on my book channel, which is now kind of defunct, where I had 23 books that I wanted to read in 2023, and so I just go through and mark those off. It's really helpful to have that spread because it's very easy to forget the books I put on there, so I just go in and put the stars for the books I've read. So now let's go into my April setup. So the stickers that I'm using are from Thumbelina print. Again, as I say, I absolutely love the Thumbelina print's stickers, and I would spend so much time trying to recreate something similar in drawing, so I love using stickers. And then all the first part of this setup is Magical Readathon stuff. So I took part in Magical Readathon for the first time this season, and I'm really pleased that I got to be part of it. I thought that I'd kind of missed my chance, but if you watch the recent videos by G from Book Roast, you can join. You can just make your character. I mean, you've just missed it, but you can join for the August one. But it's really fun to sort of just have a bit of a, like, another layer to a challenge. So if you don't know, Magical Readathon is basically where you're creating a character to go to a magical school called Aurelium, and then you're trying to get into a particular calling, and so you take certain classes which have reading prompts linked to them, which will help you to achieve your goals of getting into a particular calling. All of the printouts that I'm using in this section are from G of Book Roast's Google Drive, which have like white backings of the various guides and stuff that are a bit more printer friendly than some of the brown ones, so I've included those here. So on the left hand side here, I've got a drawing of Aurelium, which is the school, and then I have my potential TBR. So when you create your character, you can pick a calling for them to be part of, and I wanted my character to be a Star Whisperer because I felt it just really fit with my character, who's an elf. But I decided that, well, I was going to do that, but to be honest, I just didn't hit the reading prompts. One of the reading prompts I had to do to be a Star Whisperer was read a book with a map, and I didn't finish Jade Legacy, which was the book that I was planning to read for that. And I could have read the only graphic novel that I have with a map, which is Pumpkinheads, but it's a really autumnal one, and I just felt a bit weird about reading it in spring. So I decided to just change my calling literally today so that I had completed it. And I know that's technically kind of cheating, but most of the prompts crossed over with the Star Whisperer prompts. I just went with one that had 2 different prompts than what I'd previously had. So I know that it's not ideal, but I've decided to do it because my mental health is more important than a made-up reading challenge. And I wanted to make sure that I completed it because I just think I would have been really upset if I didn't. So I did decide to switch my calling, but it's okay. I'm at the very beginning of my journey with Magical Readathon. I think it's fine. So the character that I've come up with is called Anara Moonstar. I did want to draw my character, but I just didn't get time to do it, and I wanted to film this video. I may still do it, and if so, I'll insert the clip here, but I'm not convinced I will. So maybe I'll do it for a future one. And then a lot of this setup is me printing out the stuff that shows what guild I ended up in, which is the Order of the Crescent. So you take like a mini quiz basically to get you put into a guild, and I'm really pleased I got Order of the Crescent because it's the only guild that has a familiar, so you can pick a little animal to follow you around, and I'm gonna have a cat dragon. You can't have like a big dragon, but I think a cat dragon is fine. And again, I wanted to draw that, but I just didn't get time, so bit of a shame. But what you can see I'm putting in here is just the results of the quiz. So I'm just basically putting in all of my pre-work so that when it comes to the August version of Magical Readathon, I can just come back to these April pages and see what it is I had set myself up for, what career, like what guild I was in, what calling I have. You know, I just wanted to put all the early stuff in here. And I'm just colouring around the pages with my mild liners because I could have printed out the ones that had like brown parchment paper backing, but I just thought it would be a waste of ink. So I decided to go with the white versions and then just decorate them basically. So yeah, as I say, I did end up switching my calling. So I ended up becoming a Rift Architect rather than a Star Whisperer. Still pretty cool if you read through the descriptions. And the 5 reading prompts, like the 5 classes that I had to go to get to the next stage of being a Rift Architect, are Astronomy, 2 letter E's in the title, Conjuration, which is recommended by a friend, so a book recommended by a friend, Spells and Incantations, which is the target length of the book being 389 to 415 pages. I only read 1 book which fit into that category. Inscription is read a book from my top or highest shelf, and then Psionics and Divination is clouds on the cover or the title. So 3 of those are Star Whisperer prompts. So again, I don't feel like I was cheating too much. I know it technically is cheating, but it's not really cheating too much. So the 5 books that I read for the spring equinox, for 2 letter E's in the title, I read one of the Fences, either Fence Volume 4 or Fence Volume 5, because ultimately Fence has 2 E's in it. For recommended by a friend, I read You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry, because a lot of my friends have read this, and when I put that I was reading it on Instagram, loads of people were like super excited that I was reading it, like loads of my friends. So I decided that that counted in that category, and it's one that's recommended by a lot of people I watch on BookTube. Then for the the target length between 389 and 415, I put in the first 15 lives of Harry August, which was the work book club read for April. And that was, as I say, the only book that I read in that category, because I tend to read shorter books. I read a few books that were very borderline. They were like 5 pages off, because otherwise I'd have put 15 lives were recommended by a friend, because it's my colleague's favourite book. And then for Clouds on the Cover or the Title, I read Hang the Moon by Alexandria Bellfleur, which was always going to be the book for that prompt. It was the first book I read in April, and it has a few clouds on the cover. It turns out I don't have many books with clouds on the cover, but that is one of them. So now let's get into my stats. So I read 13 books in April, which is great because I didn't have a very good reading month in March, so I was really excited to get back up to my sort of normal levels in April. And yes, over half of them I think were graphic novels or mangas, but it's fine. I enjoyed myself, okay? And I read 3,841 pages, which is by far my most read, again, because a lot of them were graphic novels. The April sticker there is from Plannerface, and I do PR for Plannerface, so you can use my code CAT10 to save 10% on your orders and add my name and notes to seller to pick up my freebie. And the 2 stickers underneath are from the Coffee Monsters Co., and as is the calendar in the bottom right. So let's go through these stats, shall we? So if you want to know how I make these graphs, I basically have my core pile spreadsheet from G's Roast set up. So I had my fiance have a look at it, and he set up some month filters on it, so I can filter just by April on the stats tab that's already built in. And then I customize the theme each month to match the theme of my front cover page, so like the April. So I pick the colors that match that. Then I like screenshot each of the graphs, and I crop them and I print them in Google Drive on sticker paper, and then I stick them in. So it's a little bit multi-layered, but it's fine. So in terms of reading method this month, I read 2 audiobooks, 1 mixed media, which was Harry August, and 10 physical books. I am predominantly a physical book reader, so that's no surprise. For series and standalone, I got those the wrong way around and had to wipe them out. But I read 10 series and 3 standalone. I put them the other way around and I was like, there's no way that I only read 3 series books. No, there is no way. Then for genre, I read 4 romance, which is very low for me overall. I read 3 fantasies, 1 sci-fi, my first ever in this new phase of my reading journey, which was Harry August, 4 contemporary books and 1 mystery. So a good spread, I feel. And then I have the big spreadsheet for the number of days it took me to read the book. By far the longest was European Travels of the Monstrous Gentlewoman, which is the longest book of my whole life. So that was by far the longest. You can see a lot of them were just 1 because ultimately a lot of them are graphic novels. And then in terms of the book length, the longest book was European Travels. The shortest ones were the 2 Fence volumes, and then the rest were kind of somewhere in between. I forgot to cut off the titles that Google prints for those 2 tables, so I just highlighted them in green. It doesn't look as good, but it's fine. I very much try not to be a perfectionist about my reading journal because it already takes such a long time to set up, and I would really rather put reading journal content on the internet that is accessible for everybody to recreate, rather than for it to be one of those like really, really aspirational journals. So I do tend to leave in the mistakes if I can. Then in terms of book format, 7 of them were novels and 6 were graphic novels. As I say, very heavy graphic novel manga this month. Where I purchased them from, so 2 were from Audible, 1 I bought at Youch last year, 4 from Amazon, 2 that were other, 1 from The Works and 3 from Waterstones. I don't think that's an exact science. I don't think I'm very good at tracking that information. Then in terms of stars, we'll talk about it in a second. We'll start talking about the books and we'll go through it. And then in terms of the age format, 8 of them were YA and 5 of them were adult. I do read a fair amount of YA. I know that a lot of people on BookTube are kind of progressing to reading just adult content, even if they're younger than me. But I like YA books in the main, or at least I find them easier to read than adult books. So I like to read YA. And a lot of the graphic novels I read are counted as YA. So now let's get into the individual books. So I will give you a little bit of a brief summary and then what I thought of them. So the first book I read was Hang the Moon by Alexandria Bellfleur. This is the second book in the Written in the Stars series. I gave the first one 3 stars. I didn't love it, but I really didn't hate it or anything. I just felt it wasn't for me. And in that one, we followed Darcy and Elle, who are set up on a date by Darcy's brother Brendan. They don't have a great time while they're on the date, but they agree to fake date each other to keep Brendan off their backs and to kind of keep Elle's family quiet. And then they end up falling for each other while they're on it. The second one is about Brendan, and I always knew I was going to like this one more because I really like Brendan in the first one. I think he's just super cute. I love the way he's presented. That phrase, like a cinnamon roll, man, that's my kind of guy, right? I'm no bad boys here. Cinnamon roll guys all the way, and Brendan is absolutely a cinnamon roll. And Annie is a really likable character as well, in my opinion. So basically, Annie comes to Seattle to surprise Darcy, but Darcy is on holiday with Elle. And so Darcy kind of tasks Brendan to look after her and sort of show her Seattle. And Brendan loves love. He runs a dating app, right? He's really, really invested in love. And he realizes that Darcy is... basically she's fallen out of love with love. She doesn't think it's going to happen to her. So he really, really fancied Annie when they were young, and so he wants to sort of show her that love isn't dead. He wants to see whether there's, an option for them to rekindle their romance. It was just really cute. I really liked it. It is steamy, and yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I really had a good time reading it. I would say it's a low 5 stars. We're not talking like a Heartstopper or a Jade City or anything 5 stars. Part of me thought it was maybe a 4.5 because I don't know that I enjoyed it more than The Love Hypothesis. But I'm coming around to the fact that I think The Love Hypothesis is a 5 stars and I need to stop thinking it's a 4.75 for me. So I'm leaving Hang the Moon as 5 stars for now. Then off the back of that, I was like, I need to read another romance, and I decided to read You and Me on Vacation, which is, for me, minus Happy Place, was the third book I needed to read by Emily Henry, and it meant that I could finish out my vlog, which I think will come out after this video, so do check that out if you want to. It's the reading vlog that I started last August of me reading these books. So You and Me on Vacation is about Poppy and Alex, and they go on holiday together every year when they meet at university, basically, and they're really, really not suited, but they end up becoming friends, and they go away together every summer. And at the beginning of the book, you learn that something happens while they're on holiday in Croatia, but we don't know what that is. It's just always referred to as the Croatia holiday, and Poppy is just really struggling to live life without Alex. They're not speaking post Croatia, and she really wants to rekindle that friendship. And we sort of flip between modern day and the previous 10 holidays that they've taken together, eventually reaching the point of Croatia and finding out what happens there. I think you can probably guess what happens there. I think of the 3, because obviously I haven't read Happy Place, I'm going to wait until it comes out in paperback in November, which is really annoying, but I don't understand why they only release romances in hardback. But of the 3, so Book Lovers, Beach Read, and You and Me on Vacation, You and Me on Vacation is the easiest of the 3. I did not cry while reading it like I did the other 2. Beach Read absolutely destroyed me, and you can watch it do that in the vlog. But You and Me on Vacation is the easiest read. It's the one I most think could be read while on vacation. But it's really enjoyable. I really liked it. I found both Poppy and Alex incredibly endearing. I liked Alex the most in terms of, I think he's really like me, but I could really also see a lot of myself in Poppy. She really struggles with adulting, which is something I find really hard with kind of overachieving. And once you kind of reach your goals when you're 30, what do you then do? And it's a really interesting, as Emily Henry books always are, a really interesting exploration of kind of your 20s and your 30s, and I just really wanted Alex and Poppy to be together. As unmatched as they were, I really felt that they were meant to be together, and I was really, really rooting for that throughout the story. So yeah, I had such a good time reading it. I read it in 2 days, and I would really recommend it. I would recommend all of Emily Henry's books. I think Emily Henry is an incredible writer, and I think I say this in the vlog, but I think she's really cemented herself as a favourite romance author for me, because I'm much more hit and miss with Ali Hazelwood, but Emily Henry is consistently fantastic. So I'm really, I can't wait for Happy Place. I can't wait till it comes out in paperback so I can read it. Then I carried on the 5-star streak, and I read Teen Titans Raven, which is the first in a graphic novel series by Cami Garcia about the Teen Titans. And I do like the Teen Titans generally. They're DC teenage superheroes. And there was a TV show while I was young that me and my brother used to watch. So I have sort of, a little bit of an affinity to the Teen Titans, I guess. But I've seen the series recommended by Steph Loves, and so I thought I would pick it up. And I loved Raven, the first one. So basically, we find out at the beginning of the story that Raven is in a car accident. Her mum is about to tell her something really important, but she doesn't get to because they're in a car accident. And Raven ends up moving in with her aunt and cousin, and she has amnesia. She has no idea really much about her past or who she is or anything. And she's discovering that weird things are happening to her, and she obviously doesn't know why. And we learn over the course of the story that maybe her cousin and her aunt have stuff that they're not showing as well. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. The art is absolutely beautiful in this series, particularly in the Raven graphic novel. I just really enjoyed it, but we'll talk about the second one in a bit. So next I read The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. This was our work book club read. I don't take part every time. Like, I don't think I'm taking part for May because the book didn't look like my kind of thing. So I kind of dip in and out as and when I want to read the books. But this one was my colleague's favourite book, so I felt I had to read it. And this is about a guy called Harry August who every time he dies is brought straight back to the place where he was born and lives his life again. But he has all his memories from his previous lives. And then in one of the lives, I think this is his 11th life, a young girl comes to him and says that the world is going to end and it relies on him to save it. And so it's about him saving it. The premise of this book I find incredibly interesting. Really, really interesting. But I didn't love the execution of the book. I think it's a little bit long. And the first part I found really interesting. And then the last part, nothing really happens. Or at least it's very slow to happen. And then the ending is an open ending, so you don't know how it ends. And I didn't really like that. Like, I had to Google the ending, and I don't think it's good if you have to Google an ending. And I read the first part physically, and then I listened to the rest on audio, and I actually listened to it while I was doing my Q1 book video. And it wasn't really the ideal way for me to consume it because I consumed it in like a 6-hour period. And so it was a lot to take in. So I acknowledge that part of that 2.5 stars is probably linked to me. And it's not my usual genre to read. I'm not entirely sure I should have listened to it on audio. But, you know, it's fine. It's done now. And I feel bad that I didn't love it as much as my colleague. But I'm very interested to have read it because the premise of it was genuinely very interesting. Then I read Fence Volume 4 and Fence Volume 5. This is a series that's recommended for people that love Heartstopper, and I do think if you like Heartstopper, you will like these. They are very short and not a lot happens. They're kind of cozy in a way. They're quite slow moving, but it's basically about a group of boys at a fence academy who fence, and they're competing against other fence academies. Like, that's really the premise of the story. But there's relationships, there's students sleeping around, there's kind of students trying to figure out who they are and what they think, and it's, you know, it's cute. It's a kind of character study, and you learn a lot about fence while you're reading it. The art is really super cute. I don't like the less detailed panels. They do these kind of chibi panels, and I don't like those as much, but in general I really enjoy this series, and I've now caught up with it because Fence Volume 5 is the most recent one that's out, so I'm really interested to see what more we get from the story. I think they are coming out quite slowly now, so I feel a little bit sad that I'm up to date with it, but it will be interesting to see where the story goes from here. So I gave Volume 4 4 stars and Volume 5 4.5 stars because I was like laughing out loud at the 5th volume. So that was fun. So I really wanted to stay reading graphic novels when I finished the 2 Fence volumes. So I then read Check Please by Ngozi Okazu. This is also recommended for fans of Heartstopper, and again, I do think that that's a fair assessment. Check Please is about Bitty, who moves to Samwell University to join the hockey team, but he is like actually more of an ice skater than a hockey player, but he gets a hockey scholarship, and it's about him like vlogging his life. It's a really interesting format for a graphic novel because every chapter is Bitty effectively making a new vlog for YouTube, and he's like telling the story of what's happening and catching you up on what's happened since the last vlog. My criticism is that that format didn't entirely work for me, in that you miss big chunks of the story in between each vlog, and about 3/4 of the way through the book, not even that, I think 2/3, the last third is some of the other characters doing their own like social media thing, which fills in a lot of the story that you missed. And then there is basically like screenshots from Bitty's Twitter, which really fill in the gaps. And I felt like that just wasn't the way that this story should have been told, because I needed to have read all those extra parts in order for the first part to fully make sense, to be really invested in Bitty basically falls in love with Jack, who's the captain of the team. And I felt like a little bit like that came out of nowhere. But once you read the tweets, it really doesn't. You really see their relationship grow. So I have a lot more appreciation for it having read those extra parts, but I feel like they should have been in the main vlog. Also, it's based on Bitty is also a chef, and there are no recipes at all in this book. And another graphic novel that I love is Bloom, which is about a baker, and there's a lot of recipes in there. And I just feel like it was missing recipes. I probably wouldn't have made the pie, but I'd like the option, you know? So I gave that one 3 stars, 3.5 stars, because I just felt like I was missing something. I do own the second one, and I'm really interested to see what the second one will have in store. Then I read another manga, which, well, my first manga, but you know, another visual medium, which is I Think Our Son Is Gay Volume 2 by Akura. I loved the first one of these. I read it probably in March. And it's basically about Hiroki, who is gay and doesn't know it or doesn't want to accept it. You do have to sort of remember that it's set in, I think it's possibly set in Japan, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's set somewhere where being gay is more taboo than it is in Western society. And so his mum is really happy that he is gay and like being, you know, like discovering who he is, but she doesn't ever say anything to him. And so that can be a little bit frustrating, because it's all just about her observing the fact that he is probably gay. But the art is really beautiful, and it's a really interesting sort of discovery of Hiroki finding out who he is. And I always, like, an extra star of it is always just for his little brother Yuri, who's just my favorite character ever depicted in manga or graphic novels, other than like Nick and Charlie. But Yuri is so funny. He's got such little brother energy. I just love it. Then I read Teen Titans Beast Boy by Cami Garcia, which is the second in the Teen Titans series, and I didn't enjoy this one as much. So in this one we follow Gar, who is Beast Boy, and he's really struggling at school. He's quite short and small, and he really wants to be tall and beefy, and he stops taking these supplements that his parents make him take without telling him why he should take them. And then he ends up showing, you know, displaying like beastly mannerisms and stuff because he stops taking the supplements, because you find out that the reason he was taking those are that they're not supplements. They were basically to keep this like beast energy that he has at bay. And I just didn't think that Gar was a particularly likable character, and he's kind of horrible to his friend at one point. And I didn't love this one. I'm really interested to see what happens in the third one, because the third one is called Beast Boy Loves Raven. So I'm getting Raven back, which is great because Raven is so likable, but I don't know how I'm going to feel about the two of them getting together. So we'll see what I think of that. Next up, I read Kisses and Croissants by Anne-Sophie Joannou. I might have said that wrong, but I picked this up on a whim at the Battersea Power Station bookshop, and it's so my kind of story from the blurb. So Mia moves to Paris for a summer for her dream ballet school. Like, I watch all of those like teen shows about ballet, 100% my thing. And she, you know, this is her chance to really make her career, but she ends up falling in love with Paris and getting really distracted by wandering around Paris. But also she meets a boy called Louis, who she instantly is really attracted to, and she wants to spend a load of time with him. And so the book is about her balancing wanting to have her dream career, but also experiencing life. It's a really interesting premise. I gave it 3 stars. It has some of the typical YA frustrations of sometimes the characters will do things that you think are kind of annoying, and Mia is not always particularly likable. At times she kind of, she does some stuff that I don't always love, and there's a weird part in the middle where her and Louis go through some unnecessary romantic drama, and that gets resolved in a way that I just didn't entirely agree with. I didn't feel it was really addressed. I don't feel she really had conversations with Louis about what had been said. So yeah, I just didn't really love that part, but I haven't unhauled it, and I'm quite quick to unhaul books if I give them a 3 star, but it's still on my shelf, so maybe it's not really a 3 star. I don't know. But yeah, if you like YA, you know, it's enjoyable, I think. And when I talk about these kinds of YA romances, people ask me to talk about whether sex is mentioned. It isn't in this one, so in case any of you wanted to kind of recommend that to anybody, but you didn't want that included in the book. Then I read Count Your Lucky Stars, which is the third in the series by Alexandria Bellfleur. I just wanted to finish it out at this point, and it took me a little while to read it because I felt very similarly to this one as I did to Written in the Stars. This one is following Elle's best friend Margot, who is quite cynical, so not my sort of character really. I'm a bit more fluffy than that. And Margot is really happy being single. She doesn't care that her friends are all coupled up, even though she really does. But then her childhood best friend, who she had a fling with, Olivia, comes back into her life, and so like there's kind of that like instant reconnection there, and it's figuring out whether those two are going to be a thing. And it was just 380 pages of the miscommunication trope, to be honest. Margot and Olivia, if they'd spoken about it earlier on, we just wouldn't have even had a plot, and it just made it really frustrating. You just wanted to sort of bang their heads together. Olivia has this really sort of random moment, you know, she has her random third act drama, and I don't know. So it's a shame because I really liked the second one, but I just didn't really like the first one or the third one as much as I like other books. But I finished out a series, and so that is a massive go me. Then I finished listening to European Travels of the Monstrous Gentlewoman. I was listening to this in March as well. The way that I will mark this kind of thing in my journal is I will count all of the pages and that book in the month I finished the book in. So that is also why my page count for April is so high, because I've counted European Travels as entirely an April book rather than marking the number of books I read in March. It means that whenever I finish Jade Legacy, that month is going to get a massive boost of like 800 pages. It's just easier for me to do it this way, and it means that overall across the year it will get counted. So this is the second in the series, the Athena Club series by Theodora Goss, and team, it's like 790 pages, and I honestly couldn't tell you what happens. I really don't like that I haven't enjoyed this series, because I really want to. I really wanted to enjoy the first one. I gave it 3 stars. The reason I picked it up is that I was performing in the musical Jekyll and Hyde, and basically the premise of the story is it's about like the daughters of like Jekyll, Hyde, Frankenstein, stuff like that, and sort of giving them a new outlook on life. And I love the idea of it, but I just don't like the execution, and I particularly did not need 790 pages where I really didn't feel like much happened. I admittedly don't listen to my audiobooks in the most ideal way. I listen to them in like 10-minute bursts when I am commuting, so I do appreciate that's not the way to listen to this story, but I really don't think a lot happened. I couldn't really tell you what happened. I just feel like I blinked, and it just didn't go in. I just didn't enjoy it. So I don't know whether I'm going to finish the series out. I mean, it was a really good use of an Audible credit in that I got like 24 hours of listening out of it, but I had to keep speeding the audiobook up because I just thought I'm never going to finish this, and I really want to listen to something else. So yeah, I did eventually finish it, but I didn't love it, which is a shame. I do feel really sad about not liking that one. I don't often feel sad about not liking books. That's just how it is. But that one I do actually feel sad about. Then the last book that I listened to this month was Agatha Raisin and the Murderous Marriage. Now, you may remember that in my Q1 video, I said that I was giving up on the Agatha Raisin series, and I was. But after I listened to European Travels, I really needed an audiobook experience that I knew I liked, and the Agatha Raisin series, as much as I don't like some of the content, they're very of the time, which I don't like saying, but they have elements of racism and sexism that are of 1992, or we're up to 97 now, how exciting. But I just felt like I really needed to listen to the audiobook narrator again. So this one didn't really have too much of the stuff I don't like, so I did stick with it and I listened to it. They're an easy listen. They're like 4 or 5 hours, so it was an easy win for my TBR, and I got it on discount as well, so even better. I also wanted to add that this month's charity is Make-A-Wish. I always donate to a charity based on the number of pages I read each month, and that is inspired by JD Ray Reads and the readathon that she does. And my fiance's cousin was doing a walk for Make-A-Wish in April, so I will be donating £38 based on the 3,800 pages that I read to Make-A-Wish. So that is it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed watching me set up my reading journal for April, and also talking about the books that I read. If you did enjoy this video, I would really appreciate a like, and if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. In the description, I will have a link to my Instagram where I post some more bookish content, but I'll also have a link to my Goodreads, so if you do want to follow me or be friends over there, that is where I post my reviews as soon as I finish a book, so it's always the best place to get book content from me. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!